Tonight, the breaking news, the terrifying scene outside Boston and Cambridge, a gunman opening fire. The suspect armed with a semi-automatic rifle appearing to shoot at random. Drivers ducking for cover, hiding under seats, people frantically running for their lives. And what we know so far, also breaking the virus outbreak aboard that cruise ship, 18 passengers now brought back to the U.S. And tonight, the news coming in, one American passenger testing positive for the hantavirus, another showing mild symptoms. So tonight, where those Americans have been taken to quarantine and for how long? Tonight, the war in Iran, President Trump now saying the ceasefire is on life support, calling Iran's counterproposal garbage. The president now floating the idea of suspending the federal gas tax. Tonight, the horror on the runway, the person hit on the runway by a passenger plane.
We're stopping on the runway. We just hit somebody. We have an engine fire.
Smoke filling the cabin, the emergency evacuation of passengers, what airport officials have now confirmed.
Because I'd rather play Mortal Kombat anyway. Hey, I'm all about my
Urgent search at this hour after the deadly stabbing of a college student in her off-campus apartment. Airport officials have now confirmed. The urgent search at this hour after the deadly stabbing of a college student in her off-campus apartment building where her body was found. Tonight, the family now suing OpenAI, the makers of ChatGPT, saying their loved one was killed in a mass shooting where the shooter used AI for help, including allegedly how to load and shoot the gun. The images coming in, the massive fire growing in size in Florida tonight. The rooftop where the Beatles famously played live for the last time. What's about to happen there? Tonight, Diane Sawyer inside the hidden world of Richard Simmons, the final decade of his life after he disappeared from the public eye. What Diane discovered when she went to the home where he lived, greeted by the people who knew and loved him. Also tonight here, Martin Short for the first time on his daughter's death. And the nationwide chocolate recall. It's all ahead.
Tonight, the family of one of the victims killed in last year's mass shooting at Florida State University is suing ChatGPT maker OpenAI, claiming the company's artificial intelligence was an active participant in helping the suspected killer plan the attack.
He literally utilized OpenAI and ChatGPT as his co-conspirator.
Footage showing the terror unfolding. The alleged gunman, 20-year-old student Phoenix Eichner, hunting and chasing people at the student union, killing 2, wounding 6. The new lawsuit claims that Eichner used ChatGPT to explain to him how to load and operate a shotgun, including how to turn the safety mechanism off. At one point, the lawsuit alleges the shooter asked how many fatalities it would take to get the most attention. According to the lawsuit, ChatGPT responded, replying that he was much more likely to get media coverage if children are involved. Even 2 to 3 victims can draw more attention. The lawsuit alleges OpenAI directly contributed to the murder of Tiru Chaba, a 45-year-old father of 2 who was killed in the attack. But OpenAI denies responsibility, saying, in this case, ChatGPT provided factual responses to questions with information that could be found broadly across public sources on the internet. And it did not encourage or promote illegal or harmful activity. David, there's also a criminal investigation into OpenAI and ChatGPT on this shooting. Florida's Attorney General stating if ChatGPT were a person, it would be facing charges for murder. David?
A lot of questions here, and you'll continue to follow it. Thank you, Pierre. Tonight, a Houston husband charged with murdering his pregnant wife, appearing today in a courtroom in Italy, asking a judge there for asylum, claiming he's innocent. Lee Gilly appearing in that courtroom in Milan, fighting extradition back to the U.S. Authorities say he was arrested after cutting off his ankle monitor and using a fake name and passport to fly to Italy. If brought back to the U.S., he could face the death penalty if convicted in Texas. When we come back here tonight, Martin Short, the actor, for the first time on his daughter's death. Also ahead here, 6 people found dead in a shipping container, what we've learned about the victims. Also, the images coming in, there's a massive fire burning across South Florida tonight. A nationwide chocolate recall now expanding. And this is really something. Diane Sawyer tonight inside the hidden world of Richard Simmons, the final decade of his life after he disappeared.
Tonight, breaking news. The war with Iran helping inflation hit a 3-year high. Americans now paying more for gas and record prices for some groceries. What President Trump just said about Americans' financial situation that's now getting so much attention. Also breaking tonight, the number of hantavirus cases rising. All eyes on 18 people evacuated for that infected cruise ship and placed in quarantine. 18 others now being tracked in at least 10 states. Disturbing new details in that horrific scene on the runway. Authorities identifying the man struck by a passenger jet during takeoff, saying he scaled the 8-foot security fence in just seconds. Tonight, President Trump leaving for his high-stakes summit in China. What he's saying about ending the war in Iran. Tonight, David Muir traveling to China to cover the summit between President Trump and President Xi. The heated hearing on Capitol Hill, FBI Director Kash Patel clashing with lawmakers over reports of his excessive drinking. The NBA player found dead inside a home. Tonight, what law enforcement sources are now saying. The race to rescue 10 people, their plane going down 80 miles off the coast of Florida. Prosecutors demanding access to Tiger Woods' prescription drug records following his DUI arrest, what a judge has decided. And America Strong tonight, the graduation surprise of a lifetime. The students, their families. Consumer Price Index rising 3 points, having a major impact on the U.S. economy and your money. The war in Iran pushing costs higher. The Labor Department's Consumer Price Index rising 3.8% over last year. Americans paying even more for gas. The national average hovering around $4.50 per gallon. The cost expected to keep rising towards Memorial Day. And some groceries now hitting record prices. The cost of ground beef at an all-time high. Tomatoes up 40% over last year. President Trump, who campaigned on lowering prices, what he's now saying about Americans and their financial situation. ABC's chief business correspondent Rebecca Jarvis leads us off.
Tonight, from skyrocketing prices at the pump to all-time highs for beef, families are feeling the pain from the biggest jump in the cost of living in 3 years. The U.S. government says prices in April jumped 3.8% compared to last year. Energy prices in the wake of the Iran war fueling the surge. Gas up 28.4% year over year. The national average for regular now $4.49 a gallon. For diesel, $5.63 a gallon.
To fill that fuel tank right there on this Kenworth, it would cost, that's 100 gallons, so it'd cost me about $710.
Trucker Kyle Cameron says before the war broke out, that same fill-up would have cost him about $465.
Diesel prices impact shipping all across the country, and that's one of the reasons that grocery prices jumped such a large rate month over month.
Beef at an all-time high, up 14.9%. Ground beef now more than $7 a pound. Tomatoes up 50%. Coffee up nearly 30%. Our Alex Perez met Chicago shoppers feeling the pain.
I could buy milk for $1.99 a couple 3 weeks ago, $2.29 now.
Airline fares are up more than 20%. By one estimate, the American household is spending $642 more per month for the same stuff as they did 3 years ago. And for the first time in 3 years, wages aren't rising faster than inflation.
Inflation at 3.8%, wage gains at 3.6% in the past year. And that's why people are really feeling pinched and that they have to stretch every dollar.
President Trump rejecting the idea that the pain Americans are feeling from inflation will influence his negotiations with Iran.
The only thing that matters when I'm talking about Iran, they can't have a nuclear weapon. I don't think about Americans' financial situation. I don't think about anybody.
And Whit, a new poll shows that 75% of Americans say the war.
Americans' financial situation. I don't think about anybody.
And Whit, a new poll shows that 75% of them.
Chaos in North Florida. Police say a man drove a car through a block party about an hour south of Jacksonville, hitting a number of people. Police say officers fired at the driver who sped off, then came and crashed into a patrol car. He faces assault and other charges. The suspect and a few of the attendees were treated for their injuries. In Louisiana, remembering the children known as the Eternal Eight. The young victims of last month's mass shooting in Shreveport were laid to rest. Hundreds gathered this weekend to mourn the 7 siblings and one of their cousins, all of them between the ages of 3 and 11 years old. Louisiana's governor ordering flags to be flown at half-staff in their honor until next Sunday. When we come back, whose ping pong ball bounced the best?
Also developing tonight, at least 15 people injured after a possible boat explosion. Dozens of emergency crews responding, several people hospitalized. The new details just coming in. Chaos at Denver International Airport. A Frontier Airlines plane hit and killed a pedestrian on the runway. The incident triggering an engine fire and forcing passengers to evacuate. The dramatic audio from inside the plane. The clock is ticking for a deal to end the war with Iran. Today, President Trump saying he expects a response from the country very soon. And the suspected oil spill near Iran's main oil hub, why it's raising new concerns. The refinery explosion rocking a neighborhood in New Orleans. Plumes of black smoke visible for miles. what this could mean for the oil supply and for consumers. The chilling images of a devastating collision, an Arizona teen hit by a sheriff's boat while jet skiing, now suing the deputy who was driving. Alarming images of falling concrete from a tunnel ceiling inside a major New York expressway. A daring and dramatic rescue, the NYPD saving a distraught woman dangling from the edge of a Brooklyn high-rise 30 stories above the sidewalk. And the centennial celebration for Sir David Attenborough, 100 years young.
The incident so severe, officials upgrading this to a level 2 mass casualty incident.
Not a great way to start the summer, that's for sure.
Miami-Dade Fire Rescue.
Breaking news, a possible boat explosion near Miami Beach. At least 15 people injured and 11 treated at area hospitals. This happening at a popular boating and entertainment area. Here's ABC's Morgan Norwood.
Tonight, several units responding to a possible boat explosion near a popular South Florida sandbar near Miami Beach, packed with weekend visitors.
There's a possible boat explosion, multiple people in the water.
The incident so severe, officials upgrading this to a level 2 mass casualty incident.
Not a great way to start the summer, that's for sure.
Miami-Dade Fire Rescue rushing more than 24 units to the Haulover Sandbar in Biscayne Bay just before 1 p.m.
Injuries were from burn injuries to some traumatic injuries as well.
This captain was nearby and says he saw the explosion.
It was about 10 or 12 people that got stretched out of there. Second, third, and I've seen some possible 4-degree burns.
Rescuers pulling people into lifeboats and rushing them to nearby field docks. Officials say 11 people were taken to local hospitals, some even airlifted. The Haulover Sandbar is one of the most popular hotspots for boaters and tourists, often packed as the busy summer boating season gets underway.
And Whit, tonight authorities are investigating what exactly sparked that blast. Whit.
Okay, Morgan Norwood for us. Now to the deadly emergency at Denver's International Airport. A Frontier Airlines jet preparing for takeoff struck and killed a pedestrian, triggering an engine fire and evacuation. Here's ABC's Andrew Dimber.
Tonight, tragedy on the tarmac.
Frontier 4345, we're stopping on the runway. We just hit somebody.
A Frontier Airlines plane full of passengers speeding down the runway, hitting and killing a pedestrian during takeoff at Denver International Airport.
There was an individual walking across the runway.
We've got smoke in the aircraft. We're going to evacuate on the runway.
Just before midnight Friday, authorities say the victim scaled an airport fence, managed to make it onto the runway, and 2 minutes later was sucked into the plane's engine just as it was almost wheels up for its flight to Los Angeles. The pilots immediately aborting takeoff.
We have an engine fire.
Smoke filling the cabin, the plane's engine bursting into flames. The crew deploying emergency slides, evacuating all 231 people on board. And tonight, panicked passengers on that flight detailing the scramble inside the cabin after impact.
People that could see the engines could see large flames, and it was really scary. So people were yelling, fire, fire, and smoke was in the air.
This is just the latest terrifying incident near a busy runway. On Sunday, dash camera showing the moment the wheel of a United Airlines plane slammed into a truck while landing at Newark International Airport. As for this Frontier incident, 5 people were taken to a camera showing the moment the wheel of a United Airlines plane slammed into a truck while landing at Newark International Airport. As for this Frontier incident, 5 people were taken to a nearby hospital, a dozen reporting minor injuries. The FAA and Denver police are now investigating. Whit.
Andrew Dimbert for us. Thank you. A refinery explosion rocking a neighborhood in New Orleans. Plumes of black smoke visible for miles. Let's bring in ABC's Jacqueline Lee. And Jacqueline, this is the latest in a series of incidents.
With that refinery fire happened earlier this week on Friday and is now under control. A backyard camera in Chalmette, Louisiana, capturing the moment of that explosion. The owner of this refinery is PBF Energy, and this is their largest refinery with a capacity of 185,000 barrels of oil a day. And yes, there have been other recent incidents. In Port Arthur, Texas, a fire taking Valero's facility offline in March, and in Washington State, an explosion at BP's Cherry Point facility left 3 people injured. It is the Pacific Northwest's largest supplier of jet fuel. Now, it's too early to tell how much of the refinery in Louisiana is impacted, but this coming at a time when crude oil and petroleum products are in short supply. Whit.
That's a major concern.
It's too early to tell how much of the refinery in Louisiana is impacted, but this coming at a time when crude oil and petroleum products are in short supply. Whit.
That's a major concern. Jacqueline Lee, our thanks to you tonight. An 18-year-old Michigan man is under arrest accused of fatally shooting a 39-year-old mother of 8 and a 15-year-old boy following an argument at a soccer match. It happened Tuesday evening. First responders tried desperately to save the pair, but were too late. In addition to the murder, the suspect, Rafael Martinez Lopez, faces felony firearm charges. There is still much more ahead on World News Tonight this Saturday. Major League Baseball mourning the loss of legendary Atlanta
in 2023 and knows just how fast it can strike.
It was just labeled as an unknown lung condition, and I didn't know if it was going to be transferred to my family. I think within 2 hours, I was put under life support.
For many Americans, hantavirus is triggering flashbacks to COVID.
I can't do it. I can't. I gave you my one lifetime pandemic, and that was coronavirus. Like, I can't do another one.
But tonight, experts believe this outbreak will not be another pandemic.
No lockdowns coming. COVID spread very, very easily, and it spread even when you didn't have symptoms. None of that is true for hantavirus.
Tens of thousands of students affected across this country in a massive cyber attack against Canvas, an online platform used by thousands of students, K through 12, colleges, universities. The attack happening just as final exams are underway, and what hackers say they stole: the personal data belonging to students, text messages, and their threat. Here's Matt Rivers now.
Tonight, more than 275 million people's data stolen in a massive cyber attack that shut down Canvas, an online tool used by schools across the country, middle schools, high schools, and colleges in the middle of final exams.
It's unbelievable.
The program is used by teachers and students to upload a country, middle schools, high schools, and colleges in the middle of final exams.
It's unbelievable.
The program is used by teachers and students to upload assignments, communicate with each other, study, and check grades.
All my lecture materials on it.
Some students logging on yesterday were greeted by this ransom note from the hacking group Shiny Hunt. The program is used by teachers and students to upload assignments, communicate with each other, study, and check grades.
All my lecture materials on it.
Some students logging on yesterday were greeted by this ransom note from the hacking group Shiny Hunters, warning their schools to negotiate a settlement. You have till the end of the day by 12 May 2026 before everything is leaked.
My computer turned black and it said, warning, because your institution refused to pay the ransom, we will release the information.
The hackers say they accessed users' personal data, including names, email addresses, student IDs, and several billions of private messages.
We will release the information.
The hackers say they accessed users' personal data, including names, email addresses, student IDs, and several billions of private messages among students and teachers.
It's kind of scary to think about how close we are to the finish line, really, and having to worry about our information getting leaked.
David, tonight Canvas is back online, but with questions about the safety of students' data. Some universities still postponing their final exams. Canvas's parent company, Instructure, saying they, quote, found no evidence that the threat actor currently has access to the platform. Exams. Canvas's parent company, Instructure, saying they, quote, found no evidence that the threat actor currently has access to the platform, and they are putting additional protections.
Triangular formation, the crew describing very bright particles of light rotating way out in the distance. President Trump, who after prodding from congressional Republicans, declassified the files, touting complete and maximum transparency, writing it's up to the public to decide for themselves what the hell is going on.
And David, the government touted these files as never before seen, but some of them had been public in the past. The military, though, acknowledged
decide for themselves what the hell is going on.
And David, the government touted these files as never before seen.
A big blow to Democrats. With the midterms fast approaching, Virginia's Supreme Court struck down a new congressional map that would have created 4 House seats that Democrats likely would have won. Virginia voters approved the new map last month. But today, the court ruled that the Virginia legislature violated the state's constitution when it put the map on the ballot and struck it down. President Trump called the decision a huge win for the Republican Party and America. But California Governor Gavin Newsom fumed that Republicans were overturning the will of the voters, saying that's been their playbook in other states too, writing, quote, MAGA has rigged the system. This comes as both parties battle for advantage, an unprecedented race to redraw congressional lines before November's elections. This comes as both parties battle for advantage, an unprecedented race to redraw congressional lines before November's elections. Republican lawmakers are now racing to redraw districts in the Deep South. This was the scene today in Louisiana. The Republican effort there comes after the Supreme Court rolled back a key provision of the Voting Rights Act that had led to majority black districts across the South. All this sets key provision of the Voting Rights Act that had led to majority black districts across the South. All this sets the stage for an all-out battle for control of Congress in November. Democrats are still considered the favorites to win back control of the House, but that effort just got a little harder. Meanwhile, Virginia Democrats...
From Argentina,
I'm spending the next 35 days crossing the Atlantic visiting some of the most remote islands in the world.
Passengers like Jake Rosemarin documenting their tour of remote islands and wildlife. But tonight, teams are tracking 30 people who got off the boat 2 weeks ago on St. Helena from a dozen countries, including 7 Americans who returned to Arizona, Georgia, California, Virginia, and Texas.
I very much understand why people are having PTSD from the COVID days. But what I remind people is this is not a novel virus, and it spreads far less efficiently. So the chances that somehow this will become this big global outbreak infecting lots and lots of people is extraordinarily low.
When the ship arrives on the Canary Islands, passengers and crew will be screened on board before they can go home. And David, as for those 7 Americans who returned to the U.S., none have symptoms, but they are being closely monitored. David.
All right, Victor Akendo leading us off tonight. Victor, thank you. Also breaking tonight, the horrific scene, multiple tornadoes touching down. A staggering trail of destruction tonight. Hundreds of homes, more than 1,000 buildings damaged or destroyed across the South. The path of destruction from one reported tornado 16 miles long in one county alone. ABC's Faith Abube in the storm zone tonight in Mississippi.
Tonight, damage assessment still underway after multiple tornadoes touched down in Mississippi overnight. AccuWeather chasers catching this rain-wrapped tornado south of Jackson.
That's a huge wedge!
Trees blocking roads, including crucial Interstate 55 near Brookhaven. East of there, a mobile home park taking a direct hit. Outside Hattiesburg in the town of Purvis, reports of people trapped in their homes, entire subdivisions in splinters.
We came into this hall and everybody kneel down.
The tornado hit just as Pastor Jimmy Brazil and congregants at Coal Town Baptist Church were finishing a meal.
After things kind of settled a little bit, we began to venture out and look, and we saw that our fellowship hall was destroyed.
Across the state, at least 17 people hurt and more than 1,000 buildings and homes like this one destroyed. The trail of destruction here in Lamar County, 16 miles long.
And I came here and I got inside.
Lauren Rangelling hid in her bathtub, pulled the shower curtain, and prayed.
I've never felt fear for my life before, and that is nothing I ever want to feel again, ever.
Brad Hankins' mother's house destroyed.
You look around here, how do you even begin to salvage anything?
Well, I'm not real sure, to be honest with you. You just got to start somewhere.
And David, you can see there's not much left here, but homeowners have begun the cleanup. Grateful they made it through, but they tell me those harrowing moments last night when the storm roared through and they feared for their lives will stay with them for quite a while. David.
Wow, we're just grateful everyone survived this, and we're thinking about all those families.